Welcome to Happy, Healthy, Whole, and Rich, where faith meets action and transformation is non-negotiable. I'm Tina Brinkley Potts, and I believe now is the time to step boldly into your power, walk in divine wisdom, and claim the life you were meant to live. Each episode, I'll bring you real, unfiltered truth, because this world needs leaders who refuse to shrink. Let's get it. Welcome back to Happy, Healthy, Whole, and Rich. I'm Tina Brinkley Potts, and I want to remind you, I know who I play for, and so do you. We've spent our first 2 days in this series with Marcus. And if you've been with me, you know we uncovered something bigger than a commission conversation. We uncovered a whole system violation on the law of divine oneness, where nothing Marcus does with his team stays contained to just that one room. It ripples through everything. Today, we're moving to a new person, a new story, and a new law. But I want you to notice something as we go. The surface details are completely different. Different industry, different relationship, different money at stake. But underneath, it's the same anatomy. That's the whole premise of this series. Lack doesn't wear one costume. It wears many. But the skeleton underneath it is often the same. Today's law is the law of vibration. And today's story is about a man I'll call Keith. Keith and I reconnected a couple of years after we'd last worked together. He reached back out, we got on the phone, and I ended up talking to him for almost 2 hours while I drove to Delaware to spend time with my grandkids and my great-grandson. 2 hours. I want you to hold on to that detail because it matters for what I'm about to tell you. Keith is a highly connected entrepreneur in the entertainment space. He's had real success. He once had a record deal. He knows people. He's been in rooms most people only dream about being in. And Keith, in his own words, has the Done Me Wrong song. He said it himself, half joking, but he's not lying when he says it. Over the course of that 2-hour call, he gave me story after story. People who took opportunities right out from under him. People who quietly told others not to invite him to the table. Deals that should have been his that went to someone else instead. Real losses. Hundreds of thousands of dollars. In some cases, potentially millions. One name in particular came up more than the others. A woman who, by his own account, had taken several deals from him over the years. He told me about a moment where she told him to his face that she wasn't going to include him in something. And here's what struck me. Keith actually respected that. He said at least she told him directly instead of doing it behind his back. I want you to sit with that for a second, because it tells you something about how low the bar had gotten for what Keith considered acceptable treatment. Being told to your face that you're being cut out of hundreds of thousands of dollars had become, in his mind, the better version of betrayal. But that's not even the part that was the kicker of this conversation. Later in the same conversation, after an hour of stories about what this woman had cost him, Keith asked me to help him help her. She's in a difficult situation right now, and he wanted my help getting her out of it. What kind of misplaced loyalty is that? I told him no. And I told him I didn't think he should either. Think about the sequence of what just happened. He spent the better part of an hour laying out in detail how this person had taken deals, taken opportunities, taken money that should have been his. And then, in the same breath, on the same phone call, he turned around and asked the very person he was reaching out to for coaching to help him rescue her. After I told him no, he told me that's part of why he felt pulled to come back to coaching. Because he needed someone who would tell him the truth about what he keeps doing to himself. That takes real self-awareness, and I want to honor that. But awareness alone doesn't change the pattern. You have to understand what's actually producing it. Here's what I told him. I told him he isn't honoring the gifts God gave him. I told him that when you keep pushing yourself down and lifting someone else up, especially someone who has repeatedly shown you who they are, you are not honoring God with that gift. And I asked him directly, if you are an emanation of God, if that gift in you is a piece of the divine, then tell me, how is erasing yourself to elevate someone who was taken from you godly? Because it isn't humility. It isn't loyalty. It's a misplacement of something sacred. I want to be careful here because I don't want you to hear this and think forgiveness is the problem. It is not. Forgiveness is real and is necessary, and it's high and holy work. But there's a difference between forgiving someone from a place of wholeness and rescuing someone from a place of self-erasure while the debt they owe you is still unpaid on the table. Keith wasn't operating from forgiveness. He was operating from a pattern, a frequency really, that had been running so long he'd started calling it loyalty. Turn with me to Proverbs 23:7. For as he thinketh in his heart, so is he. That is one of the oldest, most direct statements of the law of vibration you'll find anywhere. And it was written thousands of years before anyone had a name for it. Not as he acts, so is he. Not as he speaks, so is he. As he thinks in his heart. The deepest, most repeated, most habitual frequency of belief. So he actually is, and so is what he draws to himself. I also want to bring in 2 Timothy 1:6-7. Wherefore I put thee in remembrance that thou stir up the gift of God, which is in thee, for God hath not given us the spirit of fear, but of power and of love and of sound mind. This is the verse I think of every time I think about Keith. In this verse, Paul isn't just telling Timothy to use his gift. He's telling him to stir it up, to actively fan it back into a flame, because gifts left unstirred go dim. And notice what Paul contrasts with it. Not fear versus courage. Fear versus power, love, and a sound mind. Fear is a frequency. Power, love, and a sound mind are a different frequency entirely. You cannot stir up the gift of God while vibrating at the frequency of fear. And the fear of taking up space, the fear of being seen as difficult, the fear that says it's safer to diminish yourself than to hold someone accountable. Let's talk about what the law of vibration actually says, because I think it gets flattened a lot in teaching down to think positive thoughts and good things will happen. That's not it. That's a cartoon version of a real law. The law of vibration teaches that everything in existence, every thought, every belief, every emotion, every person carries a frequency, and frequency attracts its match, not the opposite, its match. This is why Keith's story isn't really about one manipulative business associate. It's about a frequency Keith has been broadcasting for years, likely long before that particular relationship even started. A frequency that says, underneath all the connections and the deals and the resumes, I am not worthy of being at the table on my own terms. I have to earn my place by shrinking, by giving, by making myself easy to overlook and easier to take from. People don't consciously choose to exploit someone who is vibrating at, I know my worth and I will not be moved from it. That frequency doesn't attract exploitation. It repels it, or at a minimum, it makes exploitation much harder to sustain. Because the person holding that frequency notices quickly and responds. But a frequency of, I'll accept less, I'll wait my turn, I'll respect you more for at least telling me to my face while you take from me, that frequency is an open door. And doors that stay open long enough get walked through by more than one person. That's why this wasn't Keith's first done me wrong story. It was one verse in a whole song, and that song has a chorus that keeps repeating because the frequency underneath it hasn't changed yet. Here's the part that really matters, though, and it's the part I said to Keith directly. His impulse to go rescue the very person who has taken hundreds of thousands of dollars from him wasn't a random inconsistency. It was the same frequency, just wearing a different outfit, being taken advantage of, and rushing to rescue the person who took advantage of you can look like two opposite behaviors, one passive, one generous, but vibrationally, they are the exact same signal. My needs, my worth, my own protection come second. Until that frequency shifts, the specific person or situation is almost beside the point. Remove this woman from Keith's life entirely, and if the underlying frequency doesn't change, the universe, because it always matches frequency, will simply send the next person wearing a different face to stand in the exact same spot. This is why I told Keith what I told him. Honoring the gift God placed in you is not optional, and it is not selfish. When you were given talent, connection, favor, influence, that gift was never meant to be perpetually placed underneath someone else's, especially someone who has already shown you repeatedly what they'll do with that advantage. Self-erasure is not humility. It is a vibration, and it is one you have the power to change the moment you are willing to steer the gift back up instead of steering up rescue efforts for people who haven't earned that place in your energy. Now, I want you to sit with a pen in your hand for this part. Don't just listen, write. Number 1. What is the done me wrong song I keep singing, even jokingly, about my own life? And have I ever asked what frequency of mine keeps inviting the same chorus back? Number 2, where have I mistaken self-erasure for loyalty, humility, and forgiveness? What's the honest difference between those things and what I've actually been doing? Number 3, Proverbs 23:7 says, as a man think in his heart, so is he. What is the most repeated, most habitual belief I carry about my own worth at the table? And is it the belief I would choose on purpose if I were choosing freely? Number 4, who in my life have I rushed to rescue, protect, or elevate, even after they showed me clearly who they are? And what did that rescue actually cost me? Number 5, if I fully stirred up the gift God placed in me instead of diminishing it to keep the peace, what would I stop tolerating this week? Right until something uncomfortable comes up. That discomfort is usually where the real work is. Here's what I want to leave you with. You were not created to spend your life shrinking so someone else could feel bigger, especially someone who has already shown you exactly what they'll do with the room you make for them. That is not loyalty. That is not humility. That's a frequency, and frequencies can change. The gift in you was never meant to sit underneath anyone else's advantage. It was meant to be stirred up, fed, honored, and trusted at full volume. When you shift the frequency from I have to earn my place by shrinking to I already carry something worth protecting, you will find the whole song starts to change, verse by verse, relationship by relationship. Because what you vibrate, you attract. And what you attract, you eventually become known for. Stay happy, stay healthy, stay whole, and stay rich in understanding that this is all you. So it's time to do right by you. If this episode is stirring something in you, do me a favor. Share it with someone. Let's help someone rewrite the pact they have unconsciously made with lack. I'll see you tomorrow. Same time, same truth, same walk towards more. This is Happy, Healthy, Whole, and Rich, and we're just getting started. If this message spoke to you, don't keep it to yourself. Share it, live it, and let's grow together. Head over to happyhealthyWholeRich.com for more powerful teachings and join the movement. Remember, your breakthrough is waiting, but you have to show up. Until the next time, stay happy, healthy, whole, and rich.